Is that good for your snack? I mean your lunch? And then we'll stop and get a snack on the left. So we got peanut butter and jelly, some grapes, and a Capri Sun deal. You alright with that? Alright. I'll cut it, yeah? I'm gonna cut it, of course. How's the French toast? First attempt? Is a successful one? Then with Davi goodness here. $7:40 you don't start school, or is it 7:30?
7:30.
Yeah, see? Just was 7:40 a minute ago. Now we're starting to change it up. So I got you your bar and a water, okay, for your little snack-a-rooski. Peanut butter one. Deal? Is that good? Here you go, suck a sniff. One pretty much, I would say I had a pretty respected amateur career. I rode for American Suzuki from the time I was 9 years old until I turned pro, so just about 10 years. I won a lot of championships, and we traveled all over the country doing what any, I guess, dirt bike family does, driving to the races and having a great time, and more or less just. For our family, it was more or less a lifestyle. We didn't really, for a while there, we didn't do it so seriously. We had fun doing it. We weren't a very wealthy family, and my parents sacrificed a lot for us kids so that we could have fun. Doing what we loved, and basically just killed amateurs there for a while. I remember for a long time there it was me and Josh Lichtle, who was one of my best friends, and Millsaps, who's still one of my really good friends, and we would just battle to the death all the way down to white flag lap, checkered flag lap. It was always us, 1, 2, 3, which was great for Suzuki and the people involved there. And my last year as an amateur, I came back from a knee injury that set me back literally 17 months. I sat basically a full year out and came back as a pro amateur, and there was a contract that was up for grabs between me and Millsaps for American Suzuki that they kind of stated to me that depending on how I did it at Whitney would basically decide on what it was. And I went to Whitney and came back after being injured, and I think I won 2 championships after being out for that long, and hit the last few amateur races as a pro, and then transitioned into the last 4 outdoors like everyone does now. They signed Factory Suzuki, signed Davi, and I got left riding for Motor World, which was basically, I mean, I hate to say this, but you could go to the Suzuki dealership and put a pipe on your bike and it would have been better than our race bikes. The very first day I went and rode the bike, my mechanic turned my gas off and my bike locked up on the face of the triple and I broke both my feet. For me, it was very frustrating. You go from an amateur career that you go to these races and you beat these dudes that are having these factory contracts that are getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars and they're 16, 17 years old. And it's a pretty big confidence demoralizer. You know what I mean? It will just tear you apart. At a young age, you're 17, 18-year-old kid turning pro, you don't have no family helping you, and your first day on the Supercross track, you get hurt. In my contract at the time, I was riding for the Motor World team, and in my contract it said if I didn't finish 50% of the races in my contract, then they could ultimately cut my pay in half. So, I was making $30,000. It was at a point, I came to a point then where I was like, man, I'm risking my life for this team. They're giving me shitty bikes. I get hurt every time I ride it. And they don't take, I was honestly just over it. Went to the races, was making my money, and was going home. Because I was hurt, my knee was popping in and out, and I was living in California by myself, and I needed that money to survive, I didn't have no help with my family, nothing. So, as soon as the halfway season was over, I went and got my knee fixed, and after I got my knee fixed, Paul Lindsay called me like in December and told me that he was firing me for a breach of contract. I had a 2-year deal.
I remember I got geared up, went out for practice, and I was one of the first guys out. Toward the end of the practice, I had already had it in my head. There's a section before the finish line there that's the Texas 12 pack, I think they call it. And it's a big lip, and then essentially 12 just tall sand rollers, and then a finish line double. And I wanted to jump off the single over the first 2 rollers, which everybody else did, and then everyone would kind of rhythm through because they were real steep, so it was hard to get a bounce off of them. So everyone would double, triple, or whatever the sequence was. And And I knew it'd be faster if I was able to triple in and just get off the back and manual across them, you know, and you're pretty high up off the ground and they were pretty spaced out, but if you could manage it, it would be worth a second or a second and a half. So I wanted to do that, so I pulled off and I actually called my dad over to the fence. As terrible as it is, I called him to the fence.
At the end, he stopped and asked him, you know, hey, what do you think? I think the only place you can make up time is through these rollers. And he had done some things through the rollers the year before. They couldn't do it consistently. Because I think I can do that again. And I'm like, yeah, you know, this is what I see everyone else doing. He wanted to try something different. And then he did a different, you know, went out last lap of practice, did a different rhythm. I just happened to be, he'd stopped the lap before, and I happened to be standing right there that same lap, and he came through, and it
came around, jumped into the section, and I remember tripling in. And I remember I hung the wheel just a little bit on the landing, and it helped me pick it up. And then I upshifted to fourth, and I remember wheeling across the first 2 or 3, and then upshifting to fifth. And so it was fifth gear, about 3/4 throttle, starting to kind of get it going. And then I personally don't remember anything after that for the next 2 weeks or so.
Just came through and the front wheel dropped, and he was knocked out before he fell. Kind of came up and hit him, and I watched as he kind of disappeared out of my sight, and he wasn't panic revving, and it was kind of going over the bars, and I'm like, God, he's not panic revving, you know? And then hit the ground, it was quiet, and I ran over to the side, and he was perfectly laid out like you'd lay on the ground if you were trying to lay perfectly, arms out, legs out. Got over there, and a friend of mine, Scott Mumford, to jump the fence, and he got there, and he was just, you know, out. And I'd seen him get knocked out once before when he was younger, so I'm pretty calm in those situations. So at first I'm really calm. I'm like, you know, I got my hand on his knee, and I'm holding his hand, I'm all, just move. I know you're gonna wake up, just move. You know, and it was maybe 3 or 3.5 minutes into it, and there was nothing. So now I'm starting not so relaxed anymore. And probably after 4 minutes, he started to squeeze my hand and was like moving his legs. I'm like, he's moving, you know? And then he woke up, and right away, like, knew everything. He knew who he was, knew where we were, what the day was, all that stuff. So I'm like, God, this is amazing, you know? And I said, I'm leaving, I'm getting him out of here. And they said, you can't take him in your car. And I said, all right, call an ambulance or a helicopter. Or she actually said, you can take a helicopter or an ambulance. I said, well, call a helicopter. And she thought I was crazy. You know, like, what are you doing? This is and talked me out of it. And I said, no, call the helicopter. And I said, what's the best trauma center? So she named 2, and I said, okay, well, I'll go there. She called the first one, and she came into the room later and told me, hey, they won't take him. And I said, they won't take him, why? And she said, he doesn't need to go. So I said, so call the second one. She called them, and I was in his room, and I heard the doctor talking to their doctor of why I wanted to take him. And he's like, oh, he was knocked out for a few seconds, he's totally fine. And I went out there and I blew up. And the person on the phone, I think, heard me blow up at the doctor. So while I'm yelling at the doctor saying, either you don't know or you don't care, or I don't know where your information's coming from, the nurse interrupted us and said, they'll take him. And she had already called the helicopter.
I actually had a midterm that day, and it was maybe an hour before my midterm, and my mom called me, and I thought she was just calling to check in, and she, usually when Zac's racing or when he's riding and he gets hurt, my mom and I have established a system where the first thing we say is, hey, he's okay, but here's what happened. My mom called me, and right away I knew something's not quite right. She was crying, and she was just a complete mess, and I tried to ask her what had happened, and she couldn't tell me. And she just said something really bad happened, and she told me, you know, I need you to do whatever you can to book the first flight that you can to Texas. Got there, immediately Steve takes Brett and I down to this small room at the bottom of the hospital
there's Bibles in there. It's like, okay, I'm sitting in there, and it's like a Baptist hospital, and the priest comes in and says, "Doctor, be in with a minute. Do you need anything?" I'm like, this is a really bad deal right here. I don't want to be in this room. And Brett's like, "I'm leaving. I can't stay." I'm like, "You gotta stay. I can't be alone here." And then the doctor comes in. The first thing he asks is, "Was there something wrong with him before this accident? Has he been sick? And I'm like, "No. Why?" He's like, "Well, you know," and it seemed like forever. I'm like, "Listen, is he all right?" And he says, "Oh yeah, we've put him in a medically induced coma. He was out when he got here, but we're going to do this and let him recover. He's fine, but he's got some other reason this is happening. We don't know. This probably shouldn't have happened from just the accident." I'm like, start off with he's all right next time. And then we went in. That hospital was more than equipped to take care of it, and right away I felt at ease being there.
Oh, you gotta find the missing number.
Yeah, but some are different pages. They're all different pages.
Oh,
So
all right.
All different activities.
So they're all different. They're not all the same.
Yeah.
All right. Great. Go ahead and jump on in there a second. Can I just get a kid's chicken nugget meal?
Regular fries or curly fries?
Regular?
Get me something to drink.
Order for the drink?
Lemonade,
Very good.
and that's it.
Do you have your order correct on the screen?
Yeah.
$3.55 with the first winner.
Thank you. So what else, Landon?
Nothing.
What are you looking at? The menu?
Yeah.
Late for that.
Next. What are you doing?
What are you doing?
I'm not doing anything. No.
What happened to your girlfriend from last year?
Still have that, but
You what?
no other friends yet.
You still have the same girlfriend in your class this year?
Yeah, but she's in a different class.
Do you still see her?
Yeah,
Oh, are you excited?
pretty much.
Yep. I knew it. Is she your real girlfriend, or is she just your friend that's a girl?
She's just my friend.
But do you want her to be your real girlfriend someday?
Maybe.
Yep.
Or maybe not.
Do you think she's pretty?
I don't want to answer that question.
You don't want to answer that one? Why?
I don't want to.
All right, fair enough. So that's a yes then, which is fine. You just can't get weird with her. You know? No, like trying to hold hands. No trying to give her kisses.
Dad, really? I will throw my chicken nuggets at you.
I don't want a chicken nugget thrown at me, all right? I'm sorry. You know, I love my dad. He was everything to our family. He was the provider. He was my dad, you know. But he also had a very dark side to him that he wasn't ashamed of. One of the memories that I can say stands out the most in my entire career as an amateur is I was at Lake Whitney as an intermediate. I won every championship. I won at least in the classes that I rode, I think it was like 125 stock and mod intermediate, 250 stock or mod intermediate, and then I was winning the last 250 intermediate class, and Chisholm was behind me. I think I beat Davi and Lichtle and all those dudes in the 125 classes, and I ended up getting taken out by Chisholm, and I got back to the truck, and I just remember my dad was just losing his mind, just screaming and yelling, and F you, you're a piece of shit, you wasted all of our money coming out here, like just the most ruthless things you could ever hear from, the person that you think is your dad, the person that is supposed to protect you, is now starting to hurt you. And you're wondering why, it's very hard to deal with as a 14-year-old kid. I was sitting in the rental car and the door was open, and I was like just in the back seat, just like trying to get away from my dad. And I remember he like reached in the back seat and just started choking me. And as he's choking me out, like I look out of the corner of my eye, I just saw my brother running across the parking lot at the race, and he jumped up and like kicked the door and just smashed my dad in between the door and just started teeing off on him. And there were a lot of other times where things got crazy. Things escalated pretty quickly. I never got enough courage in my life to where I like ever stood up to my dad. To give you a better understanding of how much hatred and how much I resented my dad, I didn't even, this is gonna sound really bad, and I've never told anyone this ever in my life, not even my mom and my family. I didn't even cry at his funeral. I cried, but it wasn't because my dad was gone. It was more or less because I wasn't scared anymore. I didn't have to worry, I didn't have to get that phone call where he's calling me, telling me that I'm a fucking idiot and I'm never gonna do anything. It sucks to say it, because and after now that I've dealt with everything and I've forgiven him and I miss him, it sucks to say it, but when it happened, it was like I was okay, like we all kind of knew it was coming, but everybody took it pretty hard except for me. And then I was riding for that Buku team at the time, and I called Holgan and I was like, hey man, I don't think I'm gonna race this weekend. And he's like, do whatever you gotta do, take care of your, it's your family, your dad. He's like, I'll stay home. And at this point, my dad was at home on hospice, which is like, basically, you're basically just waiting for him to die. And there's somebody that comes and takes care of him, and he had gotten so sick that he wasn't really talking much to anybody. And I was in the room, in his bedroom with him, just hanging out with him. I can't remember, watching like NASCAR or something, and I was talking to him, and he like rolled over and he like grabbed my hand, and it's still to this day like I'll just never forget it. He rolled over and he grabbed my hand and he's like, you need to go race. He's like, go do your job. Do not worry about me. He's like, I'll be here when you get back. So I called him and I was like, I'm coming to race. They're like, are you sure? And I was like, yeah, I'll be there. And I raced Washougal, and then I flew home, and then my dad died that night in his sleep. So it was it was pretty tough, man. It's now looking back on it, like I said, I held all that hate towards him, and now, looking back, in a sense, I'm kind of glad and happy that my dad was the way that he was with me, because I feel like I can get through anything, dude, in my life. Because my dad just was so hard on me, and he always made me and just beat into me, don't ever give up, never quit. He'd always tell me this, and I'll never forget it forever and ever and ever. And he'd always say it, no matter what, he'd always say, no matter what, Kyle, he would say, success only comes before work in the dictionary. He's all, no matter what.
medication that went by Keppra. And he told me, he said that this shouldn't cause any fatigue. So there's one common side effect of this, and you'll know right away if you have it, and it's aggressive fits of rage. You'll just get really angry and you'll have outbursts, and that'll be it.
The medication made him temperamental, and he would get really angry at things or really, emotionally upset. And
it's almost like to keep you, I could be wrong, but in my experience, the way it keeps you from having a seizure, it kind of keeps you in this box of emotion, whereas your average person would get to this level of excitement when winning a championship or this level of depression when losing a loved one. I was stuck in this small window, but I had no control over it. You could walk up and give me a high five and I could be super angry all of a sudden. Or, you could go to leave and I was devastated. Like, it just didn't really make any sense, and I couldn't control it. But for the most part, I was aware of it.
Anytime we brought it to his attention, immediately you saw him calm down and him realize that he was being irrational about something. But in the moment, he would react to things in a way that none of us had seen from him before. So you could see the differences in the way that the injury or the medication and the entire recovery process was affecting him. I would hit the low point in the swing of emotion late at night, usually when I was left alone, just because you get all those different thoughts that don't hit you throughout the day, as far as, and I haven't really talked to anybody about it, but as far as, man, am I ever gonna be able to race again? Like, I was already on the cusp of being able to make it in this sport, and I've just set myself back so far. If I am able to return, I made an uphill battle now, nearly unachievable. And that just stressed me out, and there wasn't anything I could do to change that. And I wasn't mentally or emotionally fit to deal with it. And so that broke me down a lot. And that was really rough, and I kind of found isolation in those feelings. I didn't want to vent to my mom or dad or sister or even my close friends about that, because that wasn't their concern at all. Everyone was so happy that I was doing as well as I was, and I wanted so much more. But every day it definitely got better, and by the time he was off the medication, I wasn't home, I was still at school, but I made a point of calling him every day, and I would ask him, what was going on or what he had done the day before, and it got to the point where he could tell me everything perfectly. Oh, yesterday I sat at home and did this and drove me crazy, but here's what I did. And it got to the point where when I was able to graduate and come back home and spend time with him, it was the same old Zac that I had seen in January, a month before the crash.
If he wanted to ride a motorcycle, he was going to do it. If you know Zac, if he wants to do something, he's going to do it. And I wasn't going to let him do it without us. So that was my conversation with him was, hey, if you're going to do it, we're going to do it with you, if you can do it.
Mainly, it was just him needing to tell us how he felt. And so once it got to that point, it was pretty clear what he wanted to do, and that he was very confident that racing is who he is, or a huge part of who he is. And
it's always been my passion, and it strangely didn't waver at all throughout the whole process.
Would I say that I don't want him to do it? Then I probably thought it's best if we don't do it. But I don't see that today. Again, part of that is, hey, we're through it, we went through, and we're fine now.
Around the 2-month mark that I came to the doctor with it, and started asking him questions about it. And when he had positive reinforcement toward the idea of it, I was elated.
It's something that he wanted to try and get back to if it made sense for him, and it did. Him calling me and explaining that he had ridden, and it was like, finally, after 142 days, I'm me again, and him being so happy, it was just this huge relief. And yesterday was the first time I've seen him ride, and since he's been riding again, and it's great. It was a great feeling to just be a part of it again and see him be happy. And like, he'll say, you like, I don't know. Just seeing him so happy, like that's exactly what you want for your family. And especially in this environment where we've all always wanted this for him and supported him with it. When it gets to the point that how I saw him, 2 months after his injury, like, I don't know if you can ever explain when you see someone you love so much just so sad. It's heartbreaking. And so, to see this process and see him yesterday riding again, it just feels right, and it's really a blessing to see, especially as a protective big sister. Like, that's all I want, is just for him to be happy and especially to be safe. So to have both is great.
Before the season started, sat down and had a meeting with Carrie, and my job from what I was told was to make the main events and get better as the year went on. So my goal every weekend was to get in the main and beat my position by 1. Like my own personal goal. Because from what I was told was I needed to be better every weekend. So if that meant by getting 1 position better from round 2 until round 7, by the time I got to round 7th, I figured I should be like an 8th or 9th place dude. It was weird, like nobody knew my foot was that bad. So when they pulled my foot off and he cut my foot up, like my sock, like as soon as Doc Bodner saw it, he's like, call an ambulance now. He's like, your foot is bad. Finally, I get to the hospital and I'm laying in the bed and still no neck collar on, and they're giving me morphine. I'm like, it's not working. I'm like, I need something better. This is doing nothing for me. So they went and this is when I started taking the Dilaudid. So they give me the Dilaudid, and dude, this stuff is it's like, you can just feel it rushing through your body, and it just numbs everything. So I'm sitting there after they give me this medicine, and I'm in the bed, and my phone goes off. So I try to get up to grab my phone. It's my mom. And as I sat up, it just was the most intense pain that shot from my neck all the way down to the bottoms of my feet. And I started hitting the button, and the nurse came in, and I was like, something's wrong. I was like, there's something really wrong with my neck. Something's not right. My neck started getting super swollen. I was having a hard time breathing. So they went and did a CAT scan, and sure enough, I broke my C3, C4. So I sat in the hospital after that for a week and waited for the swelling to go down in my neck with my mom. Had surgery. They fused me through the back. Is at the race and doesn't come to the hospital to see me. Pretty fucked up. You know? After I just brought you $1 million too. Something ain't right with you, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, you've watched me grow up. And you send me a text message, one text message, you know? It's just not right, man. It's not cool with me. It's just not cool with me. And before I got hurt, I did what I was told I needed to do to keep my job the next year. I did everything he told me I needed to do. Make the main event and get better. So, you know, I am left in limbo after I break my neck and I've been given a bike, and then they take my bike from me and they tell me that I don't have a spot on the team, or $4.5 million in 3 years. Don't you think that in your heart you would want to do the right thing and give the person the spot that, you know, don't get me wrong, I brought a sponsor, but I felt like I deserved my spot there over who they chose. But I didn't think that they were gonna choose to go with their second rider that they chose to go with at the time. Somebody that didn't race one race the year prior to that, or did try to race and didn't even qualify. Or a year, or a race before that, an entire year. But they still paid him 80 grand a year for 2 years to do nothing. At the end of the day, the choice that they made was a better choice. You know, that dude went out and had some good rides that year. Some really good rides, you know? And, you know, I can't hate on that, but, you know, at the same respect, I think that from his point of view, I think he could understand why I might be scratching my head a little bit. Right? I'm like, what? Well, is this real life? So, you know, anybody in their right mind would tell them to go pound sand, you know? But here I am, my entire career as an amateur rode for Suzuki. All I ever wanted to do was ride a factory Suzuki, my whole life. That's it. I don't care about nothing else. I could be done racing and be happy and go work at McDonald's. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how much it meant to me. So I called my mom, and I was like, what do I do? She's like, you go to the race and you do your job and you go home. She's like, you do it. Take the opportunity while you can. She's like, what if you do good? She's like, then you show them. You know? She's like, and if you don't, what do you lose? She's like, you're riding out of Winnebago right now. So I did it. Dad never told me he was proud of me. Ever. Vegas Supercross last year, my 5-year-old son told me he was proud of me.
It was the most. You don't get it, man, you know? These are tears of happiness because, like I said, no matter what, I have that person forever. That one person, you know? My homie, my best friend. He told you. We're best friends, dude. My best friend. Is that bad? I'm 28 years old. My 6-year-old son's my best friend. But yeah, he's everything to me. He's my absolute everything. Yeah.
I mean, like, if you want me to, like, wrap all of Vanilla Ice Ices, maybe I could probably do it. I don't know, like, that's just probably something I could do, but I don't know if that's necessary, so.
Just put yourself on the spot. Go. Do it right now.
Can I hold the cat?
Go do the beat. Go.
Can he just be my, you have to do the beat, though. Yo, VIP, let's kick it. Yo, stop I'm just stuttering. Collaborate and listen. Ice is back with a brand new invention. Something grabs a hold of me tightly. I'm flowing like a harpoon daily and nightly. Will it ever stop? Yo, I don't know. Turn off the lights and I'll glow. To the extreme, I rock the mic like a vandal. Something, wax a chump like candle. Wax the chumps like boom. Go rush the speaker that bloom. I'm blowing your mind like a poisonous mushroom. Deadly. When I play a dope melody, anything less than the best is a felony. Love it, leave it. You better gain weight. You better hit bulls or the kid don't play. Yo, if there's a problem, if there's a problem, yo, I'll solve it. Check it. Yo, VIP, let's kick it. Mom, if you want to do the dun 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 dun, that'd be great. Dun 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 dun. Stop, collaborate and listen. Ice is back with a brand new invention. Something grabs a hold of me tightly. I'm flowing like a harpoon daily and nightly. Will it ever stop? Yo, I don't know. Turn off the lights and I'll glow. To the extreme, I rock the mic like a vandal. I don't know the wax a chump like a candle part. Boom, go to the speakers that boom. I'm blowing your mind like a poisonous mushroom.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's one of my stories.
Do I really sound like that?
It's good. Awesome. That's awesome.
All right.
I already sent Jimmy a video of her sitting there. Her boyfriend in Chicago.
Thank you so much.